Hello, and welcome to Topic 12 in Math. In this topic or this chapter, we're going to talk about converting measurements. So our first lesson is going to be converting customary units of length. Now, customary units are units that we use mainly in the United States. The rest of the world mainly focuses on the metric system. So we're going to focus on converting units in the customary system for the first few lessons, and then we'll shift over to metric. Now, before we get started with our notes and our guided practice, let's go ahead and watch our short video lesson together.
How do you change from one unit of length to another? Think about this question during the lesson. Some frogs can jump 11 feet. What are some other ways to describe this distance? Let's work on this together. How do inches and yards compare to feet? Think about this question as you do the activity that comes next.
Okay, so let's take a look at the directions we need to follow here.
Drag tiles above the number line to show an amount equal to 11 feet.
Now, if we want to figure out how much 11 feet is, first we need to figure out how many inches are in a foot and how many feet are in a yard. So we know that 1 yard is going to be 3 feet and 1 foot is going to be 12 inches. So if we want to count in groups of 3 and see how close we can get to 11, we know that 3 will go into 11 3 times. So we can say 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. So 3 times 3 is 9. We can say 10 and 11 feet. Now we could have also put the 12 inches in there because as you see, the 12 inches is the same size as the 1 foot. And this is one third the size of the 1 yard.
Which is greater, 12 inches or 1 yard? 1 yard is greater than 12 inches. The yard is a larger unit of measure than the inch. To change larger units to smaller units, multiply. To convert 11 feet to inches, think 1 foot equals 12 inches, and then find 11 times 12. What is the product? There are 132 inches in 11 feet. Why did you multiply to find inches? You multiply to find inches because you are converting from larger units to smaller units. To change smaller units to larger units, divide. To convert 11 feet to yards, think 3 feet equals 1 yard, and then determine 11 divided by 3. What is the quotient? 11 divided by 3 equals 3 with remainder 2. What does the remainder represent? The remainder represents the number of feet that are left over. 11 feet equals 3 yards and 2 feet. You now know how to convert customary units of length, such as the inch, foot, and yard. How many yards are there in 23 feet? Try it yourself.
All right, now that we've gone through and watched our short video lesson, let's jump into our notes and our guided practice together. So let's go over customary units. Now, our focus question for this lesson is how do you change from one unit of length to another? So customary units of length, just like we said, are made up of inches, feet, yards, and miles, and these measurements are primarily used in the United States. Unit conversions, that we're going to look at, which is basically how to move from one unit to another, is below. So 1 foot, and you abbreviate it by putting FT, is equal to 12 inches. You abbreviate inches with IN. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So 3 feet is 12 inches plus 12 inches, 12 plus 12 inches, or 12 times 3, which is 36 inches in 1 yard. 1 mile is 1,760 yards, which is 5,280 feet. Now, to change from large units to smaller ones, you're going to multiply, because the large ones are made up of bigger size pieces. If you're going to cut each one of those big pieces into smaller ones, you're going to have a larger number of pieces. That's why you multiply. Now, inversely, if you're going to change from small units to larger ones, you're going to divide, because you're going to put them in groups. So if I'm talking about moving from feet to yards, I'm going to put 3 groups into each yard. So 3 feet are going to go into each yard. So my number at the end is going to be smaller because we're putting them together to make larger sized pieces. So I have these 2 shapes that are made up of the same size, length, and width here. So it's the same size over here and over here. Here I used a smaller unit, so I had more of them. Here I used a larger unit, so I had fewer of them. Now, even though both are the same size, if I measure with a small unit, I'm going to have more units. If I measure with a big unit, I'm going to have less units. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example. So here my example says, William has 6 feet of rope. How many inches of rope does he have? How can you solve to find how many yards of rope he has? So first, let's stop and think, what do I know? I know he has 6 feet. I also know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, and I know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So let's start solving. So if I want to go from feet to inches, I'm going to multiply by 12 because 1 foot is 12 inches. So I'm going to take those 6 feet, multiply it by 12, and I find out that 6 times 12 is going to give me 72. So that's 72 inches of rope in 6 feet. Now, if I want to solve to go from feet to yards, now I'm going from a small unit to a bigger one. This time I'm going to divide because there are 3 feet in every yard. So I'm going to divide by 3. Now 6 feet divided into groups of 3 equals 2 yards. So I know 6 feet is equal to 2 yards, and it's also equal to 72 inches. Let's take a look at another example. How do you convert 108 inches into yards? So stop and think about what you already know. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. So that means there are 36 inches in 1 yard. So in order to solve this, I have to divide 108 by 36 because there's 108 inches in total that I'm working with. And I want to split them into groups of 36 inches, which is 1 yard. Now, since yards are bigger than inches, I'm going to be dividing. So I'm going to end up with a smaller number before my unit. So 108 divided by 36 is equal to 3. Now I checked my work on the right side. You can see my multiplication right here. I did 36 times 1 was 36, times 2 was 72, 36 times 3 was 108. So I can see that 108, 36 goes into 108 3 times evenly with no remainders. And that told me there are 108 inches in 3 yards. Now you always want to do the inverse operation. You want to check your work. Don't find an answer and stick with it without going back and double checking. It's very easy to make a mistake when you're multiplying or you're adding or subtracting. If you're off by just 1 or 2 digits, it's going to change your entire answer. Now let's take a look at another example. It says how many feet are in 2 2/3 of a mile? Okay, so I want to stop and think. I know that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So 2/3 of a mile will be 2 out of the 3 parts of 1 mile. Now I know 1 yard is 3 feet, so 1/3 of a yard is going to be 1 foot, and 1/3 of a mile is going to be 1,760 feet. This is part of those conversions we were doing in the very beginning. 1 mile is equal to 1,760 feet, and it's equal to 1,760 yards. and 5,280 feet. I'm going to correct this in the notes in just a moment. So how many feet are in 2 2/3 mile? So I'll do this in parts. So my first partial product, I'm going to do 2 times the 5,280, which gave me 10,560 feet. And then 2/3 of a mile, which is going to be the 1,760 times 2, because 1,760 is 1/3. We want 2/3. That equals 3,520. So I'm going to add together my two partial products, my 10,560 plus my 3,520, and I will get a total of 14,080 feet, which is equivalent to 2 2/3 of a mile. Now let's go on to our guided practice. Now, our first guided practice question that you have in your book says, if you want to convert from yards to feet, what operation would you use? So here we know we're going to multiply because yards are larger than feet. So remember, there's 3 feet in every yard. So if I'm going to convert from yards to feet, I'm going to have a greater number of pieces. Those pieces are just going to be smaller in size. And inversely, if you want to go from feet to miles, so small to big, what operation would you use? Here you would divide because miles are a much larger unit of measure. And 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So you're going to be dividing by 5,280 here. For number 3, what are some tools you can select to measure length? Explain when you would use them. So you can use a ruler to measure things in inches, maybe the length of your eraser, the length of a spoon, maybe the length of your notebook. Or you could use a tape measure to measure things in feet and yards, like the length of your bedroom or the height of your bookcase. So for numbers 4 through 8, we're going to do some conversions. So 9 feet is equal to how many yards? Now I know 1 yard has 3 feet in it. So 9 feet, I'm going to take that 9 and divide it by 3. And that's going to give me 3. So 9 feet is equal to 3 yards. How many inches are in 8 feet and 7 inches? Well, I know 1 foot is 12 inches. So I'm going to do the 8 times the 12 plus that extra 7 inches. Don't forget that extra piece. So 8 times 12 gave me 96, plus the 7 more inches gave me 103. So 8 feet 7 inches converts to 103 inches. 5.5 feet is equal to how many inches? So I'm going to do this in parts again. 5 times 12, or 12 inches in 1 foot. 5 times 12 gave me 60, and half of a foot, so half of 12 inches is going to be 6. And I'm going to combine those two partial products. 60 plus 6 gave me 66 inches. For number 7, we have 288 inches, and we want to convert that into yards. Now, we found out earlier in this lesson that 1 yard was equal to 36 inches. So 1 foot plus 1 foot plus 1 foot, or 12 inches plus 12 inches plus 12 inches gave you those 36 inches. Now I'm going to take that 288 inches and I'm going to divide it into groups of 36 because yards are bigger. So they're going to be larger size pieces, but the number before that unit is going to be smaller. So fewer pieces that are going to be a bigger size. 288 divided by 36 will give me 8. So 288 inches is equal to 8 yards. And for my last guided practice question here, I have 219 inches and I want to convert it into feet and inches or into just feet. So 219 inches, I'm going to divide that by 12. It gave me 18 and 3 more. So 18 with a remainder of 3. That's 18 feet and 3 inches, or 18 1/4 foot. Now, why do we say 1/4? Because 3 times 4 is going to give me 12 inches in 1 foot. So 3 over 12 is the same thing as 1/4. That's going to take us to the end of our guided practice questions for this lesson. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.